Hi, you are at the NCDPI quarterly update for the dual language and immersion webinar. We appreciate everyone being here as we're going along. If you've got any questions, make sure and put them in the question box and we will answer them as soon as we can. Hopefully you can see my screen and you can hear my voice. If you could raise your hand if you see the black and white image with some green flowers over in the corner, which are similar to spring things that we are starting to see grow. I see some hand raises, so it sounds like that we're good to go. A couple of housekeeping things to think about while we're in our webinar. When you first join a GoToWebinar session, the control panel appears on the right side of your screen. It should look similar to the one on the slide, though there may be some variations in appearance depending on the browser that you're using, the type of computer. If your control panel has minimized, look for the Grab tab or the orange button with the white arrow and click on the button to maximize or open up your control panel when you need it. You can use this control panel or Grab tab to manage your session. From the Grab tab, you can hide the control panel, mute yourself. If you have been unmuted, you are currently all muted when you come into the webinar. You also have the option, which it looks like several of you have learned how to raise your hand. If you have not done that, please locate that and raise your hand. Right now I see 4 or 5 out of 12 who have raised your hand. So hopefully you can find that. The audio pane at the top of the control panel lets you choose between the computer audio and a phone call. So if you're having trouble with your headset, you may want to switch to your phone and then back to the computer as a possible way to reset your audio. You can also unplug your headset from the computer and then plug it back in to reset your audio. The question pane in the bottom of the control panel is a place for you to share your questions with the presenters. I do have some of my colleagues here, so between either myself or them, we will answer your questions. We are recording today, so everyone has already been muted. If we have to, we can unmute you when we have questions times. You may also be surprised at how sensitive mics can be, so if we do unmute you, please be aware of that. So we're going to start off the day with a poll question to get us started here. And thinking about this, what are your goals with today's webinar? You should have the poll there. I see that we've got about 58% of you who have voted, so if you have not cast your vote, please do so. We've got about 67% of you. All righty, I'm going to go ahead and close this poll and share with you the results. As you can see here, we have 38% of you who are teacher leaders sharing information with colleagues. 25% of you are administrators, just like myself. And then we have educators earning a contact hour for renewal license. We certainly know that there's a lot of people that may be needing that. So just keep in mind that with the contact hours, to accumulate for a CEU, you have to be able to attend multiple because this one is only worth 0.1. So 1 contact hour. Please save the email that you will receive from the GoToWebinar system to document this hour. This is content activity for world languages. Please note that you must have approval for the professional development offerings from your local LEAs or charter schools. In addition, a recording is being made of today's webinar, and the archive, including these PowerPoint slides, will be available for local training approximately 1 week from today. These materials can be used as professional development resources locally with contact hours documented by the district or the school. Thank you for participating in our poll. So let's just take a look at our agenda for today. We have some introductions that we're going to talk about, the team of people, and exactly, I didn't really introduce who I was, but I figured once we get to that point, I'll introduce who I am and the rest of my team that's here. Then we have today's speaker that we're going to have, and we're going to introduce that person. We're going to have a year in review. We've had an exciting year this year, so we're going to talk about that, some great conferences, some updates from those. And then we're going to have Charlotte come and speak to us from the Flank organization. Then we're going to continue with some more spotlighting with the networking groups, and then some reminders and resources, and then finalizing with some questions for the day. But again, if you have questions during the day or during our hour that we're here, please put them in the question area, and that way I do see that we have one right now that we will get to momentarily. So, my wonderful colleagues, you can find the picture of me in the bottom right-hand corner. I am Ellen Hart with the North Carolina Virtual Public School. I am just one of these individuals. I know that we have a few staff members on board as well. So feel free to take note of any of these people. Again, you will have access to this PowerPoint and the contact information. Our spotlight speaker today is Charlotte Hancock with the Flank organization, and she is the new DLI representative. So we've got some exciting things coming from her today. So let's find out a little bit about what you are hoping to get from today's webinar. Got another poll coming up. You should have access to the poll now to submit your answers. We have about 60%, 67%. Give me just another second or two before I close the poll. All right, let's take a look at our results here. Anything that will help me with the DLI program, 70%. That's awesome. And then we've got information from conferences and the opportunities. Both of those are 40%. And then the updates on the national and regional news, 50%. I do believe this webinar is going to give you all of those things and possibly even a little more. So thank you for participating in the survey. And let's get rolling with some of our topics here. So our year in review, I am actually going to be turning this over to my colleague, Anne-Marie.
All right, thank you, Ellen. This is Anne-Marie Gunter. I'm here to share with you a little bit about our year in review for dual language immersion, or DLI, across North Carolina. As we were putting this together, we discovered it has been quite a busy year, as I'm sure you're aware of, so we're just going to hit the highlights in the year in review. First up is, of course, what we're currently doing, which is our DLI Quarterly Update Series. We've been offering this webinar series for several years now, and we're always trying to refine it. One thing that happened this year, in addition to having more spotlight speakers for you to hear about people across North Carolina implementing DLI, is we kind of switched things around with the series. We started offering the series at a later time during the day in an attempt to capture educators with their day finished up with students. So we've been offering our DLI Quarterly Update Series always on Tuesdays, but this year from 4 to 5 p.m., so kind of late afternoon, and you can see the dates there. Just so you know, and I know some have asked already, all the materials from our DLI Quarterly Update Series, including the slide sets you see, a recording of the webinar, and any handouts or things that we share, are available on the website. This is, of course, our new website for DLI in North Carolina. Notice that it is these materials are posted on the professional development page. It's circled there with a tab. You can find it quickly, or you can take the direct link that's on the slide. All of this information, too, is posted in the notes of this slide if you download the slide set. All right. Another thing that happened right away at the beginning of the year was DLI was front and center in front of the State Board of Education with the Global Education Report. Many of you know that our Global Education Task Force met and issued a report that was to be a 5-year implementation plan. That was from 2013 to 2018. So in October of 2018, at our State Board of Education meeting, which is always during the first week of the month, we had several members of our team reporting on that, including Helga Fastiano, our now retired Special Assistant for Global Education. One of the things that she was reporting about DLI programs across North Carolina that was particularly interesting to our state board members was the amount of growth and expansion we've had over time. As you can see from this quick screenshot of part of that presentation, we had the first DLI program begin in fall of 1990 in North Carolina. And now we have, as of this school year, over 170 DLI programs across the state. Those are in 8 different languages, as you're aware. And of course, they are in elementary, middle schools, and high schools around North Carolina. There are additional details for this from that first DLI Quarterly Update webinar we had, if you want to see all of the slides about DLI from that Global Education Report to the State Board. Also in the fall, not too long after that, in October also, was the FLANC Fall Conference. FLANC, the Foreign Language Association of North Carolina, is of course our professional home for dual language immersion because it's one of several world language programs that gets showcased at the FLANC Fall Conference and other FLANC meetings. So the FLANC Fall Conference was focused on who's your PFF or your professional friend forever, and we had folks celebrating their partnerships with colleagues by presenting together and sharing what they do in their classrooms, including dual language immersion classrooms. We also had an opportunity there to have a DLI networking meeting during the business luncheon session on Saturday. Several of you attended that, and we are continuing to build that capacity with our networking groups, as you're going to hear more about in today's webinar. Also coming up, this is a good time to mention that the FLANC Fall Conference for 2019 is scheduled for October 25th through the 26th this fall. Its theme is What's Your Piece of the Puzzle? So what do you bring to world languages beyond just world language instruction? And it will be in Winston-Salem. Details are posted on the FLANC website, www.flanc.org, and again, that information is also in the notes section. Another conference that was very soon after the FLANC Fall Conference was the La Cosecha Conference. These are typically in November. It is the largest dual language conference in the country, and it is held in New Mexico typically. You see here listed on the slide, there were several presentations done by NCDPI about our dual language immersion program. So we were sharing the information and the news we have from our state with a national audience. Also, just like the FLANC Fall Conference, on the right-hand side is information about the La Cosecha Dual Language Conference coming up for 2019. It will be November 13th through the 16th, again in Albuquerque, New Mexico, since that's where it's held. And you can see information and where to get details about registration online. Right after that, of course, we had the ACTFL convention. ACTFL is the American Council for the Teaching of Foreign Languages. It is our national professional organization. And so ACTFL 2018 was in New Orleans, November 16th through the 18th. There are a number of sessions that happen now with dual language immersion at the ACTFL conference, including several presented by our North Carolina educators. One thing that's also important to note about ACTFL is they have several SIGs, what they call special interest groups or SIGs, including the one on immersion. There are a number of North Carolina educators active in that SIG, and it offers things like a regular newsletter, webinars and things like that nationally on topics like biliteracy and dual language immersion research. On the right-hand side is information about this upcoming conference, which will be in Washington, D.C., November 22nd to 24th this fall. Again, there's a place for you to go get details and registration information posted online. Another thing that happened this year that we had to include in our year in review is the revitalization of our North Carolina Dual Language Immersion Advisory Board. Um, Several of you were probably familiar with this a number of years ago when we first started it, and so this year we decided to reactivate that. You see on the left-hand side the list of people, there are over 30, who represent our DLI programs from across the state, all 8 regions, all 8 different languages that are offered, and a variety of types of programs such as one-way and two-way. That list will be available soon on the DLI website. But with the DLI Advisory Board, we expect them to work. And so we often challenge them to think about what it is that we need for professional development in the DLI field, or resources and things that need to be developed further for our use in North Carolina. They are joined by the NCDPI DLI team that you met earlier. And so all together we are the NCDLI Advisory Board. Look for information soon from them about things like the Thomas and Collier book studies that we're going to be offering as professional development, as well as the new guiding principles of dual language and immersion programs that we're going to be adapting for use here in North Carolina. Another big happening for us this year was that we did go to a new website. Many of you are familiar with our DLI programs wiki. Wikispaces as a company closed, and so we moved all of our websites to new Google sites. And so here's a screenshot of our North Carolina Dual Language Immersion website that a number of things are posted on. There is also a bit.ly link, as you see on the slide, so it's a quick way to get to that website when you need to. Right after the new website rolled out, we also hosted here in North Carolina the 7th International Conference on Immersion and Dual Language Education. It was variously called the CARLA Conference in North Carolina, as well as NCDLI 2019. The theme was transforming communities through multilingualism, and we were proud to be able to host this here in North Carolina as a regional site for this conference that happens every 2 years and is based out of the University of Minnesota's CARLA Language Resource Center. With that also, of course, we have the conference materials posted from that professional development event, and you can always access those, including the ones from our North Carolina educators that were shared.
So this is Ivana. I'm going to jump in and do a couple of these slides. The one that you see on your screen now is the National Council of State Title III Directors. The annual meeting was held on March 6th in conjunction with NABE on the pre-conference day, and that was in Florida this year. And one of the things that I've been very excited about as president of the organization is bringing in some more focus on dual language immersion. So some of the presentations this year talked about English learners, of course, but also brought in a focus on dual language immersion education. So you can see that several of the presentations, one by Dr. Joel Gomez from the Center for Applied Linguistics and Dr. Barbara Kennedy, formerly of Cal, but now with the Texas Education Department, did a presentation on the dual language guiding principles. As you know, Cal was one of the publisher author entities with that, and Dr. Barbara Kennedy was one of the co-authors. And you see in the picture over on the right side, a picture of Dr. Gomez with a picture of him at a very young age. And he spent a good amount of time in his introduction talking about the fact that culture and language are a part of the person and the impact that they have. And he shared the importance of retaining the original pronunciation of his name as Joel and what that meant to him as a person, as well as the food and the clothing and the impact that we can have in education by asking or expecting our students to give up these parts of themselves. And he tied this in to the dual language to the guiding principles, talking about how important it is to have well-implemented programs. Dr. Barbara Kennedy then spoke about how in Texas they have taken the dual language guiding principles and done something similar, a little more than just adapting them, but done something similar to making them more specific to Texas. And that's something that I think North Carolina is very interested in as well. Carol Salva, who is in the far left of the picture below, was a keynote speaker as well as part of the panel, talking about boosting achievement for all of our learners. And there was really no dry eye in the place as she gave examples of how we as educators can touch the lives of our students. You also see in the picture, in the second person, is Dr. Bill Rivers. Bill Rivers likes to call himself the lobbyist, the language lobbyist of America. And he was there talking about how we can advocate for our students. To the right of him, you see Jose Viena, who is with the Office of English Language Acquisition. So in individual presentations, as well as in group presentations, they brought to us a wealth of information and a lot of challenges about how we can advocate for English learners, how we can use dual language immersion as a way to make sure we're closing that achievement gap. For those of you that are interested, February 25th in 2020 in Las Vegas will be the next meeting of this organization. And on the next slide, as I mentioned, this group met on the pre-conference day of NABE, the National Association of Bilingual Education. And you can see over on the right a picture of Dr. Margarita Pincos, who is the current president of NABE, along with someone many of you may have heard speak at other conferences, Alberto Carvalho, who is the Miami-Dade Public Schools Superintendent. His story is absolutely fascinating, from him actually living underneath a bridge after crossing the border into the United States until now, where he is the superintendent of the 5th largest school district in the United States. And he talks about stopping under the very same bridge where he had lived and speaking to the people who were there and encouraging them that they too can be successful. So much power that we have as educators working through our dual language immersion. You see that we from NCDPI were represented in 2 different presentations here, and that the next conference, the 49th annual, will be coming up in Las Vegas in February of next year, and those details are at the bottom of the screen. Pass it back to Anne Marie.
Thank you. Not too long after the NABE conference, later in March 21st to 23rd, we had the SCOLT conference, the Southern Conference on Language Teaching. And this is our regional professional organization, much like ACTFL is our national one or FLANC is our state one. This was really important for us, though, in DLI because for the first time, the SCOLT conference included a DLI strand. And so, again, we had a number of presentations from around the region, including North Carolina, showcasing what we do with dual language immersion education in this region and showing how it's growing and expanding over time. One of the things to keep in mind is that, like many of our conferences, all of the SCOLT session materials for SCOLT 2019 are available. You see the link there on the screen. I would encourage you to explore that a bit, and also know that we are very well represented in the planning of the SCOLT conferences. The executive director, Leslie Baldwin, is actually from North Carolina, and her district has a DLI program. And a number of the executive board members are also from North Carolina, representing our state, but also making sure that regionally we have a conference that we can be proud of and that will draw in educators from a number of locations. The SCOLT 2020 conference will be in Mobile, Alabama, because SCOLT encompasses over a dozen states in the Southeast, and so it moves around a bit. It will be again at the end of March 26th to the 28th next fall. Oh, sorry, next spring. My apologies.
So back to me. Sorry, I had to find that unmute button. The ECU DLI Administration Certificate course. So you guys have been hearing about this throughout the year. The second cohort is finishing up with their 4 courses. Actually, they're moving into their 3rd course. 4 courses for this particular certification program. It's a wonderful opportunity for dual language immersion administrators, those that are new, those that are coming into a school, those that have a lot of experience already, to have the opportunity to take that experience, bring it together into a cohort. Amazing relationships are built, and with the assignments that are given within this program, you can learn more about your own environment, but also have the opportunity to step out and observe and learn and reach into other environments and build your understanding of what dual language immersion education is all about. So we strongly encourage you, if you have an interest, to look into this, to share it with others. The courses are online, and so you don't have to be in North Carolina to take these courses. And we really want to share the word of this unique program that is out here and available to help us grow our administrators in dual language immersion.
Thank you, Anne-Marie and Ivana, for some awesome wrap-ups, a year in review, amazing year, that is for sure. So our next up is our spotlight speaker, and I'm really excited about introducing Charlotte. She not only, as we mentioned earlier, is on the flank board as our DLI representative, but she's also involved at UNC at Charlotte, as well as Union County Public Schools. So I'm going to turn the mic over to Charlotte.
Hello, everyone. My name is Charlotte Hancock, and I am very excited to be talking with you guys today. I am the dual language immersion representative for Flank, and so I just kind of wanted to tell you a little bit about myself and then end with just letting you know of more opportunities that we're working on to help us network as the dual language field. So I just wanted to start by saying I am a huge advocate for dual language immersion, and my work experience began actually as a world language teacher in 2005 in the state of North Carolina in Union County Public Schools. I taught high school Spanish, levels 1 through AP, and I did that for 10 years. And then my son actually began a dual language program in 2015, and I was immediately hooked on this program. And so I actually added on to my current K through 12 Spanish license and got a K through 6 elementary license just so that I could be a part of a dual language program. And so that's where I've been working the last 2 years in Union County. And along the way, I had always wanted to go back to get my PhD. I have my master's, so my educational experience, I did get my master's in Spanish literature, languages, and cultural at University of North Carolina at Charlotte while I was teaching high school, which was a great experience, and it helped me be a better teacher. And I always knew I wanted to eventually get my PhD and become a professor. And so around this time that I started in the dual language program, I just realized that there was still so much work that needed to be done, and I had so many answers that I needed to be able to work in the dual language field. So I decided that this would be a great time to go back and to get those answers, and a great time to be the producer of knowledge too. So I started back in the fall, actually in the summer, this past summer, at UNCC in curriculum instruction with a focus in urban literacy and TESOL. And I began to also, my research focus while I was there has been solely on the best practices in world language and dual language. So I've had such a fabulous experience researching and working on this. I'm also looking at the scale of biliteracy and English learners. So these are all my focus areas as I research, and I've had phenomenal opportunities while I've been there. I was given granted an urban education collaborative doctoral fellowship this past year with Dr. Lewis at UNCC, and I have been able to collaborate with Dr. Davin and Dr. LaChance as well. And there have just been so many wonderful opportunities for me at UNCC that have opened my doors to learning in my first year how to research, how to write. And it's just been wonderful because that is such a passion of mine. I've realized how important it is to me to write and to research and to disseminate this information to the field. I want to be able to help everyone have these answers so that we continue to get better as educators in both the world language and the dual language field, because I truly believe in students having the opportunity to be multilingual. And I look forward to many more years of research and leading in the field for this. Currently in Flank, so here are my future plans on the next slide. I currently am the first ever dual language representative for Flank, which is something that I'm very, very excited about, that we are able to merge these two worlds of world language and dual language at Flank, because I definitely think that they overlap, and we as educators in both of these fields can help one another. And so what we're working on right now is just trying to increase the dual language presence and collaboration in the state. And so we have been having different sessions at Flank, the different conferences, and we will have more, and I'll talk about that in a second next year. But for now, I'm really excited that we're going to have a Share Fest coming up. And actually, before you switch slides, I'm sorry, go back one more to the one before. Thank you. I wanted to make sure I put my, that you could follow me on Twitter if you want, because I'm hoping to get some different research and publications out. And when I do, I will tweet it. I want to make sure that anything that comes out, that it gets to those of you that are interested in how it can impact where you currently are in the field and how it can help us all. So follow me on Twitter if you want to follow how I'm doing with the research and anything that I send out for Flank as well. And then there is the Flank website if you want to. I put information on that website on Flank about the different upcoming events that can benefit the dual language field. Okay, we can go to the next slide. So this is something that I'm extremely, extremely excited about, and I'm so excited that I get to talk to you about this today. So we are organizing a dual language Share Fest that is coming up on May 18th. It's the first one that we've had for the state. So Dr. LaChance at UNCC is helping me co-chair this, helping me organize, and Mara Cobe from CMS has graciously given us a location to do this. So what we are asking is that anybody that's interested, and you don't have to necessarily even be in the dual language immersion field, maybe you're a world language educator in the area and you want to know more about it, please come, because we all have best practices that we can share with one another. So dual language focuses a lot on the content, whereas in the world language field, we work a lot on the language development. And we really need to do both in both of those arenas. And so I think we have so much that we can learn from one another. So anyone is welcome. It doesn't even have to necessarily be from the state of North Carolina. Anybody that wants to talk about dual language, we invite you to come. It's May 18th from 9 to 12 in CMS. So there's the address. And this is the RSVP link. So if you could, we're asking that you RSVP by April 15th. This is also on the Flank website under the dual language representative link. But if you could, just let us know if you can come. Maybe you're interested in sharing something. It's a very relaxed atmosphere, so you don't have to feel nervous. I know some of us are scared to present, but it doesn't have to be where you're standing up in front of a large group of people. It could just maybe be a small circle group of people at one table. But all of us are doing wonderful things out there in the field, and it just to be able to share with one another those ideas would be phenomenal. Additionally, just to have the opportunity to collaborate and get to know one another, it's a great way to network. There's so many great things, and if we could connect with people from all over, it will just better support us. I know that a lot of times it's hard in dual language. We feel like we're doing a lot of translations and trying to find the resources. Well, people have done that. And so if we can kind of talk with one another and start sharing these resources with one another, it's going to help us be stronger as a field. And yeah, I just wanted to make sure I shared that as well. And I look forward to hopefully seeing you there. And we look forward to just growing the dual language field and the collaboration across the state. As Anne-Marie mentioned, we also will have the Flank Conference in the fall, October 25th to 26th in Winston-Salem. And we are definitely, we asked for presentations on dual language. We want to have a plethora of those that also are there for the dual language educators as well. So I hope to see you at both of those events, and feel free to contact me if you have any questions. And my email is also on the Flank website. And thank you to everyone for this opportunity to talk today.
Just a couple of things, Charlotte, as we're hearing from people in the question box. We had a person who asked, is there going to be a DLI-focused ShareFest in the Raleigh area?
Well, thank you for the question. So Dr. LaChance and I actually were speaking about this. So this year, this is, we're having the one that's in Charlotte for this year. However, next year, the role that I'm in is a 2-year role. And so next year, we were hoping that we could maybe have more than one. And we were looking at different locations across the state so that we would differ next year, different places. And Raleigh was definitely one that came up that we spoke about. So if that is of interest, like, yes, I hope that we can definitely get that taken care of next year. for Raleigh. And in the meantime, if Charlotte's hard for those in Raleigh for the Share Fest, I encourage those to maybe come to Winston-Salem. It's a little bit closer where we'll have different presentations, and find me there, and I will help connect anyone that comes with each other in the dual language field, just so that we can network sooner than later if they can't come to Charlotte.
I'm also going to go ahead and put information about all of the Flank Share Fest in the chat box for everyone. There are going to be 5 Flank Share Fest, and these are all very informal, sort of unconference sessions located around the state. There's one in each of the 4 different regions of Flank, and then of course this 5th one focused on DLI.
All right. Well, thank you, Charlotte. I certainly appreciate all the information that you have provided. And thank you, Anne Marie, for continuing with sharing the information. So now let's move into an opportunity that you get to share some ideas with us. I'm going to be putting a link in the chat that goes to a Google Doc. I want to make sure that as we are capturing, and you can look at this question here as I am putting the link. And this will take you to just a blank document. And what I'd like to do is just take a few minutes, and I'm going to go on mute, let you think a little bit about what ideas you have about other opportunities for DLI networking groups. If you would start off by putting your name on the Google Doc and then putting your ideas, and that way we know who the idea is coming from. So give you about a minute or two to think about this. All right, I'm going to read it. Go, hold on. All right, let me test to make sure I have it going. Awesome. I appreciate some folks putting in here. Apparently we have Anonymous Goose and Anonymous. Don't you love how they have all the pieces in here? A small group of people from a few states have a monthly co-teach chat on Twitter. People take turns running it. The leader posts 4 question prompts on Twitter within a 30-minute period and then get shared out. I personally have been involved with Twitter chats like that, and they've been pretty good in terms of organizing that with question and answer, and being able to follow those discussions are pretty incredible, which Charlotte has already mentioned about Twitter. So definitely Twitter usage is something to think about. Maybe we can tag team with Charlotte on that. We also have a state group with Facebook. So continuing that theme of social media that we maybe could expand. It was created last summer during the EL Support Conference. That's a great idea. I'll probably need to find out who the manager of that site is so that we can tag in with that person. And then, of course, we appreciate that you like these webinars. We are partial to them. We do feel like they are full of information that's helpful for you. Maybe have them more frequent or more open so that teachers can ask questions, share what they're doing. So maybe even taking the one spotlight and making it a bigger episode where we're doing Share Fest during these webinars, potentially, is what I'm seeing out of that. Great, I appreciate that. And certainly this document will continue to be available. We will have it linked out on the PowerPoint once you get it, and you can always go back and add to it at a later time. Going back to our slides. A few reminders that we have for you. And we've already talked about this conference, and we just wanted to re-emphasize that there is going to be the call for proposals. The deadline is April the 30th, so just mark that for your calendar if you're interested in doing a proposal. And we mentioned earlier, and just a reminder that we have our website. There are new resources, information on the website, so make sure and check that out on a regular basis. And then a few things that we're really excited about. Coming up, PD, the Thomas and Collier book study that's going to be on Canvas included NC and national connections to the book materials as well as hands-on application opportunities. This was co-authored by Dr. Ringler from ECU and Nicolette Grant of Guilford County, previous CMS, and that's going to be coming in June. And then we have the EL Support Conference, August the 6th through the 8th. It sounded like that the Facebook group came out of that conference last year. So again, that's going to be August 6th and 8th. The DLI overview is going to be led by Dr. Joanne LaChance, and I believe I saw that name on our list already. And Dr. Levitt, formerly of the Henderson County. And more information and registration will be coming soon for that. So make sure to be on the lookout for that. And then, of course, these webinars will continue throughout the remainder of, we've got for 1920. So wrapping it up, we'd like to have a poll question because as Anne-Marie talked about at the times and the days, and we want to make sure that we are offering these webinars at the time that is convenient for you because you are the stakeholders who are important. And if you're not here, then we shouldn't be offering them. So we want to make sure that we have those at the right time. So I'm going to launch a poll for us and see what some of your choices are. We have about 50% of the folks who have answered. Give you a few more minutes because this is something that we really want to make sure we hear your voice. A couple more seconds. I know we've got a couple of people that said that they were not able to participate because they were listening on their phones, driving. We certainly do not want anybody recognizing that, so I'm going to close the poll and share the results. Wow, 75% of you said Tuesday at 4 p.m. Now, this is not saying that it's set in stone. I know that in talking with even Anne Marie today, we were saying that, this is just kind of a brainstorming and trying to figure out what's the best way to serve your needs on when for next year. So don't necessarily mark that down. It will be the same, but it definitely helps us to know that 75% of you feel that way. If I'm not mistaken, Anne Marie will be sending out some more information and maybe collecting from the broader audience to capture their thoughts as well. So, last and not least, if you have any questions, please put those in the question box and we will answer those. And we, the team, really appreciate that you have come. Here is our contact information. Again, this is Ellen Hart. I'm down in the bottom right-hand corner. You heard from Miss Iva, and she's on the left-hand side, and Anne Marie on the left-hand side as well. Those were two of the ladies that helped me present today. I'm not seeing any questions come through.
Hang on, Ellen, just a few things we want to pull from the questions box that we've kind of answered as we've gone along. There were some folks who asked about the DLI seminar for administrators and teachers, and that's something we offer annually in North Carolina. This year, it may not have been as obvious because, of course, it was folded into our hosting of the 7th International Conference on Dual Language Education, which was in Charlotte in February. However, that will continue to be an annual offering as part of the Flank Spring Conference, which is one day on a Saturday. On one of our campuses in North Carolina. So look for that. That's something that Charlotte Hancock, as our DLI representative on the Flank board, will be very involved in planning. And it will be, once again, having sessions for both teachers and administrators of DLI programs. And then because it's also associated with the Flank Spring Conference, of course, there are many options available during each of those sessions. So just like the Flank Fall Conference, the Flank Spring Conference is our professional home and has things that are uniquely designed for our DLI programs. Another question that we got in the question box had to do with when these materials will be available. We do post the archives from our broadcasts approximately 1 week after the live broadcast. Sometimes we get them posted a little earlier than that. But what we post is a recording of the webinar, the slide set you see here, and any links or handouts that we use. For example, the Google Doc we use to generate ideas about our DLI networking groups, which we will continue to collect and think about in serving our state for our DLI community. We'll also put the link to the Flank ShareFest and so forth so that you can get that information readily. That information is posted on the professional development page of the North Carolina DLI website. And I'm going to go ahead and put that link there in the box so that you can see where it will be posted. And you could go there now if you wanted to and look at the archives from our past webinars this year. That's all I'm seeing at the moment. Don't forget to, if you attended the live broadcast, you will receive an email receipt with the contact hour as well as a certificate for licensure renewal. You do need to keep track of those documents and be sure and share them with your district or charter school for approval as needed. That's all I see right now in the questions box.
Thank you, Anne Marie, for catching those. Did not have the check box that says showed answered questions, so I missed those. That's why we have a team of people working to serve you. So thank you again, everyone. We appreciate you coming this evening, and I'm going to stop the recording, but we'll hang out for a little bit longer if need be.